I think we just make a start, if that's okay. Hopefully Anne will join us shortly.
I'm here.
I'm
here.
Well done, Anne. Well done. So please can I welcome everyone to this meeting of the North Whiteley Forum on Monday the 17th of July 2023. The time is 6:03 p.m. My name is Councillor Vivian Atchwell. I'm the chairperson of this committee. Some housekeeping points before we start. This meeting has been recorded, live streamed, and will be available on the council's YouTube channel. Can everyone please ensure their mobile phones are switched to silence? Please can I ask everyone present that their microphones remain muted and your camera is turned off whilst you are not addressing the meeting, as this will reduce the background noise and avoid any unintentional disturbances. Thank you. Members, please use the chat function or raise a hand, the hand button to indicate that you wish to speak. We have a number of officers with us this evening from Hampshire County Council and Winchester City Council. I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves as they speak throughout the evening. We also are being joined by Jeff Davies of Tetra Tech on behalf of the Developer Consortium. So turn to your agenda. So first we have apologies. Matthew, can I ask you to give an update, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So I've had apologies from Councillor Cooper, Botley Parish Council, and Councillor Burton from Fareham Borough Council. Also, just had apologies from Councillor Woodward, who's having some broadband issues in joining the chair. That's the apologies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of interests on the agenda items this evening? No, that looks fine. Can I just ask members if you just mind switching off your cameras if you're not speaking? Mike, thank you. Thank you very much. Appointment for the vice chairman for this year. Are there any nominations for vice chair for this year's agenda? And then, yes, Chris.
May I nominate Anne Small?
Okay, thank you, Eric. Is there a seconder? Is there a seconder, please?
I'm quite happy to
I'll second that.
Okay.
I would like to second the name of Councillor Anne Small as a vice chair for the committee.
Okay, lots of seconders. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other nominations apart from Councillor Small? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Small, you are the vice chair. The forthcoming year, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have just one small announcement. I know it's, I too am very disappointed that we can't have the meeting in person, but having looked at the actual cost of having this in person, I did ask the officers to get some more quotes, but to have the equipment, the screens and the microphones, it comes to nearly £2,000 per meeting. And as we don't actually make decisions at this meeting, we're only here to listen to the updates. I just feel best that we carry on as we are on screen. And I do apologise for that. Councillor Bodger.
Yes, could I just point out that for £100 you could get a Zoom license, and then we wouldn't have all the problems that we have with Microsoft Teams. It would be an acceptable alternative. I know all this was raised before the meeting started, but now we're formally going. I'd like to make that comment. Okay,
thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We're now on to item 6. Sorry, item number 5. I skipped public participation straight away. We have David Leslie who'd like to ask a question. Would you like to put your camera on, David? I believe you're here, David. Yep.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Just get a bit closer, I think.
keep moving the microphone closer. The question relates specifically to Woodlands Chase and Whiteley Way within Woodlands Chase. And the question is exactly who is responsible for ensuring the safety of residents on Whiteley Way, especially once it opens to traffic. And the question is whether it is something the consortium looks after, something the developer, who's Taylor Wimpey, looks after, or something that is the responsibility of Hampshire County Council. In particular, there are two very fast entrances to the developed area. One is the bridge leading from the high school into Woodlands Chase. The second.
Thank you. Mr. Davies, would you like to comment, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Broadly, the Whiteley Way is a consortium road, so the consortium assumes responsibility for health and safety throughout that. The developments on either side, particularly in Woodlands Chase, is Taylor Wimpey one side, and it will be Persimmon on the other side whenever they sort of develop their sections. And the speed limits, your Ray is quite right on the finished road, but we have a number of 20-mile-an-hour signs that we've put up, and we're in the process of putting up quite a few more repeater 20-mile-an-hour signs along that road in advance of it opening through traffic, because it remains a construction site. So we really need to do what we can to keep speeds down. There will still be a lot of construction traffic using that road for quite some years to come. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, in a broader sense, in terms of health and safety, we do undertake, on behalf of the consortium, fortnightly health and safety inspections. We use a third-party body to do that, who issue reports to the consortium and to the developers to sort of pick up on all sorts of things, which are then discussed and actions taken to rectify them. But we are quite aware of the issues, particularly as more and more residents start to live on the site. I hope that answers the question for now.
Thank you. David, can I ask us, does that help answer the question?
Yes.
I wouldn't normally let you ask another one.
Yes, it does, to the extent that my understanding is that until the road is adopted, Jeff would be the person that we, the residents, would have to contact if there are concerns relating to Whiteley Way. That's what I take from it.
Indeed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Thank you all very much. Thanks for your question. Thank you. We're now going on to item number 6, which is minutes of the previous meeting held on 16th of February 2023. Members, have you all had a chance to look at the minutes, and are we agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We now have item number 7, which is an update from Education Services. First, we have Gemma Bowery from Hampshire County Council regarding the proposed secondary school. All very exciting. Gemma, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, as you just said, I'm Gemma Bowery. I'm working strategic development in Hampshire County Council, so historically part of Children's Services, which is why I've been invited here today. I believe that my colleague Martin Shefford came and spoke previously at some of these forums. He has since now retired, so he's passed the baton of Whiteley to me. So I will do my absolute best to advise you as I can, but anything I can't answer, I'll take away with me if that's okay, and come back to you after the meeting. So I believe it's been discussed before, but the secondary school, the timing for that at the moment is September 2027. With us today is my colleague Martin Hallam, so he's leading on the design side of things. So he can come in a minute and give a bit more detail on that. But I just wanted to share with you that we've got the timings for set for 2027. There'll be chances to feed into that consultation and the design, comment on the design and part of these public consultations that will be coming up around this time next year. So we're not quite ready to go into that level of detail at the moment. In terms of the second primary school, I believe that's been raised previously as well. We still haven't got a date for that at the moment. It's something we're constantly reviewing and looking into as to the timing of that. My best guess at the moment is it's probably not going to be before 2029, bearing in mind that Cornerstone has been built to accommodate up to 3 forms of entry. And at the moment it's operating at around 1.5. So we've got quite a lot of capacity built in there already, hence why the second school isn't planned to come on quite so soon. However, it's something we review constantly. So we were constantly reviewing those numbers as they come through, the Whiteley residents, the Whiteley children, wherever at school. And if we have to adjust that timing, that's something that we will do. Before I pass over to Martin, my colleague Melissa Doughty is also here. Again, I think previously Martin was asked about well, I'll call it the old school site, but Cornerstone's previous residence. And Melissa's come here just to talk a little bit about that. She's also on the design team, like Martin is, and she'll be able to share a bit more after we've spoken about the secondary school. Martin.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Vivian. So yes, I'm Martin Hallam. I'm one of the delivery managers at in Property Services, working to Gemma and the Children's Services team. I've been very long involved with the North Whiteley secondary school site, not the former Cornerstone site, but the secondary school site. And as Gemma sort of explained, we are currently in its early stages of design, with the intention that we will be able to consult on that design in the summer of next year, with a planning application hopefully being submitted in the autumn of that same year. We have a design team working on board now, and as you can imagine, for a school of this sort of scale, it's quite a large design team. So what we're doing at this present moment is coordinating all of the respective interests in terms of the testing the site's topography, ground conditions, putting together cost plans, testing those cost plans, just to ensure that when we do submit a plan application, it's affordable and meeting the core brief. The intention is, as I say, is we would look to complete the scheme in readiness for the academic year starting September 2027. And we anticipate the project being on site for some 2 years. And we've measured that based on the project's site, what we call abnormals, given the fact the site has quite testing and challenging topography. There's a sizable level difference across it. The ground conditions are probably very testing, and we've learnt that from working with the consortium's team. And we will be obviously checking all of the future statutory requirements, not just building regulations, but what is likely to emerge as sort of climate sustainable interests in future local planning policy. So that's where we are with regards to the secondary school.
Thank you. Melissa, do you want to add anything before I let the members ask questions?
Sorry, hello.
Hi.
Yes, just to say that I am looking specifically at the old Cornerstone site at the moment, going through the same processes that Martin Hallam is with his school. What we are looking at the moment is splitting the site in 2 so that there is a special needs school on the north of the site and housing to the south. The housing would be developer led. The school has been as part of a successful bid with the DFE to fund it, and that in terms of programme, we're looking to consult spring next year, with a view to it going on site in 2025, completing in late summer 2026, if everybody's in agreement. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, Frank, I see you put your hand up first. Question, Frank.
Thank you, Vivian. Martin, there's been concern expressed by some of the heads about the delay in timing, because clearly, I mean, Swanmore, for example, we have, I think, 60 plus pupils per day coming in up from Whiteley to Swanmore. And I think there's a similar intake in some of the other local secondary schools. So really the question is basically, are you liaising with these heads about the progress that you are making? End of question.
That would be for me to answer, Councillor Pearson. So
yeah.
Yes, there's quite a lot now in the secondary phase. To make the school financially viable, I think, again, Martin, I think said this previously, but we would aim to have about 130, 150 coming into that year group. At the moment, in the current year 7, there's 101. So yes, there are significant numbers of children now, but they are being accommodated in the local schools. I know that Swanmore is taking a proportion of that. Henry Court is taking a larger proportion of that at the moment. And come September, Henry Court will be the catchment area for the Whiteley area until the new school is in place. In terms of speaking to the head teachers, we are expecting to be consulting with them in the autumn term about the school and the plans for the school and all the detail that you've just asked about.
Might I ask which autumn term?
This autumn term.
So we talk about 2023.
Yes.
That's, I mean, it's always crucial that, as I've been caught out more than once, not by yourself, by a vague comments like this. It tends to be a bit Spanish. Okay, so you're saying consultation with the heads will start seriously in autumn of this year, 2023. And you're expecting to start with an intake of 130 pupils. That's year 7, I take it. Clearly, I wouldn't expect older pupils from Henry Court or Swanmore or wheresoever to go straight into the school. That's not the way it could be conveniently managed. But from conversations with Swanmore, I'm aware that there's a bit of a question mark all the time. It's quite clearly they need to know information from a budgeting point of view, and of course from a management point of view, because those pupils 60 plus will be going down gradually, as I presume if you've got year 9 and 10, 11 pupils from Whiteley, they will stay in these schools. Yeah. Only the year 7 pupils will come to the new high school.
Yes, that would be the plan. I mean, if it's run by an academy, that academy sponsor might have other ideas. We don't know, but essentially, again, to be financially viable and to ensure the financial viability of the neighbouring schools, that is the ideal scenario. Very conscious that Swanmore, like you say, is impacted in that way, as is Henry Court significantly. Particularly for Swanmore, there's been a huge amount of building in the area anyway, so we will be needing those places for Swanmore pupils when that time comes as well.
Well, not as much building as you've got down, or there is down in Whiteley. No, we've got one housing estate waiting to be started, and that's from Percival, and they don't seem to be doing any work either in Whiteley or certainly not in Swanmore. So that's a question mark, but thank you very much for that answer. It's very useful. I will pass that comment on to the head, so he has an informal briefing waiting for your formal one. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Mike. We've lost Mike now. Mike, are you there?
Sorry, Vivian.
That's okay.
I don't know if to direct this to you, Gemma, or to Martin, but Can you confirm that all the all-weather pitches will be available in September 27? Because this has become quite serious. I'm not going to go into detail now, but I'll be talking to Hugh Lumby about this. We have got a problem in Whiteley. All our deficit in pitches is in North Whiteley, and it is crucial. We've got, as Vivian well known, we have about 500 or 600 boys and girls playing football. And we've got 40 teams in Whiteley. Hardly any of them play in Whiteley. We need those sports pitches as soon as possible, and we know they're supposed to be shared. So it's very crucial to the ongoing of the club, and it's something we may need to address. We've raised this before about bringing them forward, but I know we've been told by Martin Shefford there are difficulties with some of the land there. But the question is, will they be ready by September 2027?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Evans. I'm probably best placed to answer that one because I obviously have my eyes on the delivery programme that we are targeting. In straightforward answer is yes. The intention is that we establish the pitches and terrace the site to accommodate those synthetic turf pitches at the front end of the construction programme, so they are established and ready for September 2027.
Okay, that's fine. Okay,
okay.
I'll pass that on. Just clarification, but I mean, I suppose there's no way they can be brought forward.
It's a question which I think is probably best answered in a future forum when we have the input and support of a contractor who we look to bring on board through one of our construction frameworks. And what we tend to do is work and take benefit from working with them through the logistics of the programme. And as I say, it's probably best, Councillor Evans, that I answer that question at a later forum when we have a bit more detail.
Okay, Martin, thank you. I'll make a note of that and I won't forget.
Yes, that's right. Of course, more than happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Sadaka Atwell. You're muted.
Right, you could. Just to make sure that my understanding is right, that these pitches will be ready in 27. Will they be under schools' control, or would the outside agencies would be able to make use of them? So, for example, Whiteley Wanderers, they would want to use these football pitches for the games. Would they be able to use it, or
so
be managed by school?
So, I don't fully know the answer to that. I might have to come back to you on that one. I know that it's been funded in for community use, so I know that as part of the Section 107, that is the agreement that it will have community use. How that works during the daytime when the school's in session, that's something I'd need to check and come back to you on.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, Councillor Evans, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, I did actually. Just I can answer that. I mean, if you look at the 106, it is a shared facility. When we discussed this, Gemma, with Martin Shefford, and before, obviously, we did the planning application in 2015, it was agreed that it would be a shared facility. And the idea was that it would be passed over to the town council, but that might have changed. But we'll need to negotiate on that. And certainly it's part of the makeup of the present deficiencies that we have in sports pitches. But we are aware of that, and obviously it'll be subject to further discussion as a shared facility in due course.
Yeah, that fits with what I understood it to be, Councillor Evans. I'm more thinking about from a safeguarding perspective how that works when the school's actually in session. But it might be that that's been agreed previously. I just need to check on that one.
I don't think it was. I don't think there was a requirement to use those pitches during school session.
That makes it a lot more straightforward.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Frank. Councillor Pearson.
Thanks, Vivian. Yes, if I can add to what Melissa said, the normal system with a school when the pitches are for community use, and this is the same as in Swanmore, the pitches are for community use, then the school uses them during the day, but the community can then use them in the evenings and at weekends. And the answer for that is quite simply security of the pupils. You can't have anyone willy-nilly, any age, going onto a school site that would put the children at risk. And if it does go to the town council, Mike, that would be, from a school point of view, very unusual. I hope I haven't stood on your toes there, Melissa.
We have Councillor Lumby. Just put your hand up in time. Councillor Lumby.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for coming and going. My Wi-Fi is bad at my voice. Just on the playing field. It's so important we get those there ASAP, and actually the priority is to keep those on track as much as we can, because there's so much use for them pent up, and it will go elsewhere or disappear, and both are bad. So just to emphasize that. Thank you, Martin. I know you're doing your best, so thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I had one question regarding the Leaford Lane site for the Sen School. You mentioned also about housing. My understanding was, this is to Melissa, I understood it was only for Sen School. I wasn't aware there's going to be housing as well. Any idea how many housing? How much?
Sorry, yes. So the site was originally allocated for housing. I think the planning application for that lapsed some time ago, and there were 75 units initially. I think the history of the site subsequently is that that number of units has dropped. We're looking to use 1.8 hectares of the site for the school, which means that there'll be some land left over for between 25 and 30 houses in the future. But that's not something, we're just sort of zoning that area off for now.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Anybody have any further questions? Okay, thank you very much, officers, for coming along. You're welcome to stay, or you can leave the meeting. I'll leave it entirely up to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on to item number 8, which is question update from the developer and the implementation officer. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself, and I'll look forward to your report. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you, Chair. Matthew, I sent over a brief presentation. I don't know if you received it. I can share it via my screen, if not. Thank you. So I usually give this a similar update every forum. So kicking off today, 17th of July. Next slide. Brief overview of the entire site and the off-site works as well. Just highlighting the works that we do, which we deem to be principally the consortium roads and activities, and the works to the south that have been undertaken by Hampshire and their contractor Milestone. Next slide, please. Phase 1 Bluebell Way was opened over 2 years ago now. The bus service commenced earlier this year and is running. I think the uptake on the bus is still relatively low, as I understand it, talking to Hampshire officers. And we're sort of coming towards the end of closing out a contract to deliver the Southern Local Centre. So I'm hoping that will close out, and a planning application will be coming in for consideration from the proposed developer fairly soon. Next slide, please. Just a couple of stills taken from the regular video drones shoot that we do. This is just looking down at Bluebell Way at near the Western Access Junction. Next slide, please, Matthew, and a further shot looking towards the middle of the site with Cornerstone School just underneath there, bottom of the picture. Next slide, please, Matthew. An update on the cycleway that runs beside the school. This is proving to be a difficult nut to crack, unfortunately. We're still hoping to get started on this in the very near future. Desperately trying to get this started during the school holidays. You will have noticed there is a planning application running at the moment on the phase 1 part of the cycleway. That is actually just a very minor update. There's a section of it that didn't quite work with the developer next door to it. We had to resubmit planning. It only affects the sort of the very end of the phase 1 cycleway, which I realised I ought to have drawn a little further in terms of the planning. It runs slightly into what I'm showing as phase 2 on that plan. But it doesn't affect us, the delivery of the first section in planning terms. So we're not held up by planning. We have a design that has been technically approved. We're just trying to close out the section 278 legal agreement, without which we cannot actually start work because it is part of the highway. Unlike the other roads that we've built, which are the private roads, we can't touch part of what is deemed to be highway. The public right of way fits into that category without having a section 278 agreement. However, we are really close to having that agreed now. So I've actually lodged an application to put in place, have the powers at least to put in place the footpath diversion in readiness, so that as soon as everything clicks together, we can start work on that section of works. We are also currently working on the second phase. The design of that has been submitted in outline form to Hampshire for consideration highway terms. We're just agreeing those details, following up with significant sort of tree surveys and so on in advance to be able to put forward a planning application later this summer, I hope. Next slide, please, Matthew. Briefly looking at the off-site Whiteley Way works, this has proved to be quite difficult again. We are in a position now where, although we have a contractor on board who has developed the various traffic management schemes, which we have sat down and agreed with the retail centre representatives and also with Hampshire Highways officers. We're pretty well there now. I attended a pre-start meeting last week with officers, and we've sort of all our ducks in a row, with the exception of an actual start date. We've got some delays on a critical diversion just between roundabout 2 and roundabout 1. There's a HV cable that we need to divert. It sits on top of the culvert that we have to replace. And we've had a problem there and just bringing that forward. I think at the moment, although we might be able to clear this quicker than I think is reality, but I think we're not likely to start until after the traffic management embargo, which kicks in sort of towards middle of November for our works, which means that effectively if we don't start until January, we're not going to finish until late summer 2025. Next slide, please, Matthew. Brief look at phase 3, which is the main section of roads through the middle of the site, Whiteley Way and Curbridge Way. Broadly, the roads are built, but they're not quite finished, particularly the Whiteley Way East, the section that runs sort of north and on the right of the picture there. That looks like it's not going to be finished until the end of this month, probably early August. The Curbridge Way, as you may have seen, is pretty well finished. We had a safety audit undertaken on that on Friday during the pouring rain. I haven't had the full report of it. I've had a telephone conversation with the auditor this afternoon. So there are a few things that have come up there that we will have to address. And I'm talking to the consortium about whether we open Curbridge Way in isolation or wait until both are ready. And that's partly subject to what comes back from the safety audit report. I don't think we'll be able to open it just this week. We've got some things to do, and I'd hope to come forward with a further date as soon as possible, which I'll feed back to the members as soon as I can. We are keen to get the road open, and I think everybody else is keen for us to get the road open, but we can't do it until it's safe to do so. And we certainly can't open Whiteley Way East at the moment. There's just too much work going on it to even, put the safety audit in on that section just yet. And I really added on a note to what I said earlier on in the meeting, that these roads are running through what is a major construction site. There's one hell of a lot of work to do there to bring forward all the developments on either side of it. Work will be going on there for some considerable time. So hence the need to make sure that speeds are kept down and we keep on top of the health and safety, as noted earlier. But next slide, please, Matthew. Yeah, a couple of views taken from the drone of the area I've just been talking about. That's Whiteley Way East, looking sort of in a southerly direction. And this is a view looking to the north of Whiteley Way, and then Curbridge Way on the left. Next slide, please, Matthew. And there's a couple of shots of, I walked through the site last Wednesday and took a couple of shots on Curbridge Way, and I went around the whole loop actually, but I've only put forward a couple of the shots of the section of road which we undertook the safety audit on at the end of last week. Made a mistake. I think it's not January 2023, it's June 2023. I do apologise, I didn't spot that. Next slide, please, Matthew. Quick update on the housing position. So we've got detailed planning permission now for 85% of the total number of houses on the site. Overall, we started 1,735 houses, finished 1,096, and occupied 1,040, the last reckoning I did. Next slide, please, Matthew. Very quick overview on the open space. We've completed allotment 1, leap 2, leap 3. Leap 1, you've noticed, is under construction at the moment down at Whiteley Gardens, and that should be finished later this year. We're in the process of trying to get the legal land transfers in place. At the moment, I am talking to developers about opening up these areas early, but just at the moment, the developers are not keen. They rather get the land transfer process, completed. So we've got a number of legal activities ongoing at the moment to try and push that forward. An overview of landscape works this winter. We're in the process of tendering works at the moment to bring forward broadly the works that we were going to do last winter. So you should see that start to come forward later on during the planting season. Next slide, please, Matthew. Bus service still running, as I mentioned earlier on. I think the key thing is we'll be looking to start putting in the shelters later this year, and we will be tendering the second phase of the bus service over the summer, going into the autumn, for that to sort of start off sometime next year. Next slide, please, Matthew. Just a brief update on the last forum. We had a discussion, of course, on the parking issues. They haven't gone away, as I know. It's just a couple of slides looking at what had sort of happened since we had that discussion. We've extended the various barriers around to try and deal with areas where parking was causing particular concerns. Those are a couple of pictures I took when I was on site last week. Unfortunately, I got there probably just after everybody was going into the school. So perhaps it looks better than it was half an hour earlier, but it seemed to be working reasonably well. We've also got the cones that you've seen down Whiteley Way, trying to deal with the parking issues there that have been a particular concern at weekends. And I know there's people are keen to see double yellow lines going down. So we're talking to Hampshire about trying to do that properly. We have an issue where there's a concern if you put down the double yellow lines, you're prejudging the actual due process to put them down permanently and properly. So therefore you might have to put them down and then remove them and then run due process. We're wondering whether it's possible to avoid that. One issue we have is if we put down lots of double yellow lines and then have to burn them off, it damages the highway. We're hoping that some resolution can be found to that, because leaving the barriers like this in place, they're a bit of an eyesore. They cost us money, and I'm sure they probably cause other issues. They make the area look like a racetrack in places. So they're a short-term solution, I hope, but they are necessary at the moment to deal with some of the issues. Thank you, Matthew. I think that was the last slide. Thank you very much.
Jeff, do you want me to run the video now?
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
Bear with me a second, won't be a second.
So the overflight starts off in the north of the development, looking down at the Northern Access Junction and the top of Whiteley Way. And it's now just flowing slowly in a southerly direction through the Vistry development down to Road 115, Whiteley Way on the left, and Curbridge Way going off to the right just there. Flying on down through Curbridge Way. Looking down now towards some of the persimmon areas, bottom of Curbridge Way to the junction, Whiteley Way. Secondary school future secondary school just on the left. Turning around now just by Bridge 2 on Whiteley Way. Down through Woodlands Chase, Whiteley Way South. That is looking at Whiteley Way East. The video goes back and picks over some of the sites either side of the main roads. Again, Whiteley Way East, major development going on there. Looking to the north, I think, of Whiteley East. It's at the junction between Whiteley Way and Curbridge Way. about now moved over to Bluebell Way and the Western Access Junction. Turn around looking to the south down Bluebell Way, Foreman development area with Cornerstone School is just at the top of the screen, actually just gone off screen. Coming on further down towards the centre of the site. So that's the Crest development. Bluebell Way again to the south and just turning to the left over the Persimmon developments and looking back towards Woodlands Chase, Whiteley Way in the distance. Just coming over Whiteley Gardens. The Gardens again and just turning, looking to the south towards Whiteley Retail. Just picking out on Bluebell Way, Foreman developments. Looking at the Persimmon development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff, for the update. Members, do we have any questions? I've made a list, but I'd let others jump in first. If you'd like to put your hand up. Okay, let's have Eric. Eric Bolger, would you like to ask?
I didn't think I had my hand up. It's
That's
Frank
not you?
Pearson who's
Okay.
got his hand up.
There's Councillor E. Who's Councillor E? Okay.
Councillor Evans chairs next.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Evans. Sorry, Councillor
That's
Evans.
okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Julie. Mike, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm just going to put my stuff on.
Thank you.
Jeff, thanks for that. The phasing for the path to the school, I know you've got to do some work on it, as you explained, but can you, have you got an end date when that's actually going to be open?
I don't exactly at the moment. The answer is as soon as possible. I'd like to roll straight on from one phase to the other, but I think that at the moment I'm just determined to get part of that path in at least, because I know the issues that there are around the school and access to the side gates of the school, and it's frankly, it feels a little embarrassing that we're still talking about it after all this time. We've had planning permission for quite a long time. And the issue's been ongoing. We were going to deliver it last summer, if you recall.
I do.
And still not quite. I'm still trying to get onto the starting line this summer. But yeah, as far as I can see, there's nothing really left to agree on the legal agreements. I think we just have to get them signed and sealed and delivered, sort of thing. So, although I know from experience that even that it can be troublesome with the number of parties involved. So, but in anticipation of that happening reasonably soon, that's why I've put in the application to be able to close the footpath so that we can divert foot traffic around it and get on with it. I don't want to have a further delay because we haven't got the footpath, the powers to divert the footpath in place. So I'm desperate to try and get this. I think at the moment, I think it was going to take us about 6 weeks to build it. So I'm unlikely to have that section finished before the school's open, because days are almost upon us. Probably are upon us now. I'm losing track. My kids have all grown up. But and I don't have the agreement sat here tonight. So, but I'm really want to get it. It's much easier for us to deliver it while the ground is dry as well. So it's that's very much key for everybody to anybody who can assist me in terms of getting this over the line, but from all sides, I'd be really grateful.
I think Vivian will share that. I mean, we'll give our support to it as soon as possible. And I know that the head of Cornerstone is quite desperate. He was hoping that it was going to be open for September, but I don't think that's going to happen. And once it is open, Jeff, I think it will cut down the amount of people using cars, and people, once they can walk, because I mean you can see the school from so many houses, you know, in Woodland Chase and other areas, that it's you know, I think it's frustrating, but I know it's taken a long time. But I think all of us who maybe are involved in it will give you the full support when it comes through. We just hope we can get it open ASAP.
Thank you very much.
And I've got one other, Vivian. I just wanted to mention to Jeff. I mean, I'm not going to give any detail on this, but I think the town council's made its position perfectly clear about the opening of Whiteley Way from Whiteley Meadows to Woodland Chase. And I know you've got the audit, and that's got to be looked at. And I know there's a number of scenarios you're looking at, but I do feel that there's been a little bit of disappointment, and I'm sure it's difficult for you that on one side, the Vistry side in the north, seem to have got everything in a row. Taylor Wimpey don't appear to have done anything, and I think there's got to be, as I've said in my note to you and others, that there's got to be consistency. It's got to match, and it's the safety of the residents that we're concerned about, because there's no way those bollards, which are down Woodland Chase to R3, can stay there, because I have personally witnessed lorries hitting them, and those bollards are flying into the woods. And I know one of our councillors there who spoke earlier as a resident, David Lindsay, Leslie has seen them, and most of them are broken. So I think it's a challenge, and the sooner we can obviously resolve that, the better.
No, I agree. It's a key issue. You know, the parking is one issue, and speed is another. We have got, you know, a fairly long straight section of road there, and in other areas where there is a lot of development to go against those roads. Those roads are sat there in isolation at the moment, but the full design has houses built right up to the back of the footpaths, which, you know, tend to slow things down later on. So those are two key concerns. I mean, I am talking to the consortium about WLO lines.
Okay.
So we're sort of holding that in reserve. But safety comes first, Mike.
Yeah, and I understand. And one of our concerns, Jeff, I'll just mention this to other members, is that road has the potential to be a rat run, because I've done it the one way and then another. It is quicker by 10 minutes at least to go through Whiteley Meadows, through the shop, past the shopping centre to the M27. And once people, as you said, it's a construction site, and this is why I think safety is paramount, because once vehicles find out it's quicker to get to the M27 going that route, they ain't going to go down through Sedginsworth and the Botley. So the sooner we can resolve all those safety issues, the better. And I know people are working on it. So I don't intend saying any more.
No, that's quite right. I would anticipate that a lot of the traffic that uses Bluebell Way now would naturally switch to Whiteley Way, Curbridge Way, once that's available, because it's a quicker route, as you say.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Vivian. Yes, you've said a couple of times about the WLO lines. Now, as I understand it, these roads are unadopted. So what would be legal significance of WLO lines if you don't have a TRO? Unless you can put a TRO onto an unadopted road, which I don't think you can you?
Well, as I understand it, Councillor Pearson, yes, a TRO can be used on private land. However, it's not current. But the higher authority could put a TRO on private land, but it's not current policy to do so. So a TRO is not available at the moment. So you're quite right. But I think if we're trying to deter the parking, people recognise double yellow lines, and it might help to remove the issues that we have. And it's the same as putting down the cones or the bollards that we've put down, the red and white bollards. We're trying to deter the problem. But you're quite right. We were unable to, without a TRO. Their significance is more. Should I put it? It's not really enforceable.
Well, I mean, that's the aspect. I mean, I'm looking at existing W lines in some of the local villages around us, and unless they are enforced, people just ignore them. They may as well not be there. We have a parking issue, for example, Bishop's Waltham, double yellow lines, and still people park on those double yellow lines. So it comes back down to a TRO that is legally enforceable. That's one point. And the second point is, if it's unenforceable, whether, to put the bollards be better. I heard what you said about the cost and the aesthetic value of them, but they do stop parking. It's not a question of, I didn't see the double yellow lines. It's, we're fighting against human nature. They will park as close as they possibly can to where they're going, even if it's legal or not, they will do it. And, one of the issues, as we both know, and everyone in the meeting knows, is parking, unofficial parking on the sides of the road. I'm most familiar with Bluebell Way. And it's, how you get an emergency vehicle through that road when you've got parking on both sides. I know there's parking at the back, but they don't use it. But WL lines, that bit did worry me. It's best not to use them if they're not enforceable. However, that's a comment. Mike may well have another comment about that. I don't know. Thank you anyway, Jeff.
Well, I think, Councillor Burton, you've summarised my dilemma quite well.
I think it's more a safety issue of where they're parking. That's the concern. Some people nearly had the residents been hit nearly because it's on the blind bend. That's the issue.
Well, you look around, Vivian, blind bends, junctions, exits. If you want to park, they'll park there. And you see it all over the place. It's illegal. It's against the highway code. Age-old adage we used to have when I was working in a secondary school. There's no point having a rule or a law if you're not going to enforce it. They just didn't work.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Ray, did you want to say anything by any chance? I noticed you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think I put my hand up because if Jeff hadn't covered all the aspects, I would have assisted. And I think there's one aspect, or there's two things really I can add. I think what Jeff said earlier is a repeat of what I've said at a previous forum, and that is that the message I was getting from my traffic management colleagues is that if that whilst legally we can put traffic regulation orders on private roads, the legislation is in place for that. The practice is not to. And I think it's something to do with enforcement, because the county council don't employ individual people to do the enforcement. They've employed a company to do so. So I suspect the companies are run ragged trying to enforce the WLO lines and other parking restrictions on the highway. To add to that burden can be more of a problem, but there's probably a contractual issue there. But legally, as I said, we can do it. And I think there's been a slight change, and I'm waiting for this to be confirmed by a more senior colleague with regard to not putting them on. I think what they're now saying to me at a fairly junior level is that if the developers want to, they need to agree the scheme with the county council first, so that we are happy with it. That's a change from what they previously said when they said we don't want to know it's the developer's problem. We're not going to do it. And I think what they're saying now is that let's agree it so that it's the sort of thing that we would do with a traffic regulation order when the road is adopted. But the other point I wanted to make is one of enforcement. And I know this has been mentioned previously in another forum, and that is if yellow lines are put down, and Councillor Pearson is quite right, it needs to be enforced. And whilst it's a private road, it is for the road owner to do the enforcement. And I'm sure Jeff has commented on that in the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that all helps. Thank you very much. Jeff, I did have just a couple of questions that you mentioned about the new centres that are coming up. Could you give me an idea what's going to be in the centres?
The local centre, the Southern Local Centre.
Yeah, please.
It's the one I know the most about. But the broadly speaking, there's going to be a store and a nursery, broadly in line with what was approved at outline planning to fulfil the condition under outline planning. So in the very broadest terms, I can't really share that much yet because we haven't signed the contract up.
Sure.
But it broadly matches what was expected within the condition and you know the square meterage, etc. I've seen a putative planning application drawing for it, which looked quite good to me, and we're now waiting just to get that contract signed up, and then there may well actually be some preliminary discussions going on in the background with Winchester officers, but I can't really comment upon that. There may be something happening there, but it doesn't involve me directly.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Evans, put your hand up quickly. No, okay. Well, thank you very much, Jeff. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Vivian. I beg your pardon. I muted myself. Just to say that Steve Lincoln from Winchester has already been in touch with Nikki, I understand, about these buildings. So he's going to come up and see Whiteley Town Council in due course.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Right. Thanks, Jeff. Now
Thank you.
we're going to Hilary, the Winchester City Council Implementation Officer. Hilary.
Good evening, Chair. I don't have a lot to add to Jeff's report. Just a couple of additional facilities that are being worked on at the moment. We mentioned allotment 1 has been complete. Both allotment 2 and allotment 3 have commenced, and we're expecting them to be hopefully complete by the end of the year. I'm not so sure about allotment 2, as that will also include the 4 youth pitches at the top of the site, but at least we are moving along with that facility. The other facility that hopefully will be coming online, and as Mike has indicated, we are going to talk to Whiteley Town Council about the temporary community centre that's going to be in the form of a porter cabin up on what will be the retail, the local centre in the north of the area. What is already there on that site is 2 porter cabins, which is accommodating a skills academy, which is being run in conjunction with Fareham College. That Vistry are sponsoring or helping train up construction workers, and that is supposed to have its first cohort of students this month, with a more sort of coming along in September. So hopefully that will be quite an interesting facility up in the north, and we'll see how that goes and report back to the forum on what they're progressing there. In terms of, Jeff mentioned the landscaping, we with the landscape team have done some initial looking over a few of the POS areas that are going to be handed over, just to make sure they're in compliance we were quite concerned there was quite a lot of barbed wire around, so the consortium are, because it was farmland, so there was quite a lot of barbed wire, which we're working with the developers of clearing as well. Every time we see it, we ask for that to be cleared. So that work was ongoing, which is one of the reasons it gets more tricky getting some of these areas open to the public, because again, they need to be safe. There's been quite a lot of planting work going on, which I know members of the public have been concerned about because some have not been successful. Unfortunately, it's been a couple of strange years with lots of rain and then nothing, and then lots of rain again. They did some planting along the Northern Access Junction, which looks really good. We're just hoping that those trees were planted at the right time and they're going to take, but the developers will be required to replace those trees if they do die. But we're quite happy for people to let us know when they spot ones that aren't doing so well, and we can make sure that developers are aware and that they'll be replanted in the next planting season, about November. I think that was all I had to say. We're still waiting for the masts to come on board. I'm still not quite sure when that's going to come back, but as soon as I know, I will let members know. I think that was it.
Thank you, Hilary.
Yeah, if there's any other questions, quite happy to answer them.
You just answered my last one about the phone masts. That was my question.
Yeah, no, I keep chasing.
Me to it.
I've been talking to them. I think there was a little issue about they were a bit worried about how they were going to get into the site. So we've had some discussions about that, and there's some trees in the way, but we're trying to negotiate our way around that little problem.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Hilary?
Thing that should be being built as well, which is a footpath between Curdridge Way and Ridge Lane, which if we get Curdridge Way open, that would be quite a nice addition to the footpath network, which will, help take people through to the south of the site. But that should be finished in August, I'm informed.
Okay, that's great, thank you. I just Jeff actually forgot to mention, you had promised us a clean-up of the site in our last forum meeting, and as far as I've seen, it's a lot better than what it was, so thank you for getting that sorted. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
It's looking much better now.
I think there was a request to do some further tidying up, which we'll get sorted as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jeff and Hilary, for those updates. We'll now go on to item number 9, which is any future agenda items. Members, does anyone have any agenda items would like to add to the list for next meeting?
Sorry, Chair, before I finish,
yes,
I
Hilary.
did forget to say that we did have 3 updates from Hampshire County Council on the bus numbers.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
And junction 9 of the M27, and update to the work they're doing on the travel plan. Those documents have now been posted on the forum page, Democratic Services forum page, if people would like to refer to them.
Don't know if anyone's had a chance to have a look at them.
No, sorry, but they only got posted today then.
Right.
In terms of the passenger numbers, just the total people getting on a bus was 1,371 from March, April, May and June.
Okay, that surprises me.
So I think it's building.
Yeah, that's good. Good start.
Yeah, Skipper Road seems to be the most popular stop.
Okay. And on the junction 9, I'll just have a quick look at the notes here. They've done the road safety audit.
It's quite a lot of detail in there, which is why I thought I wouldn't read it out. But I thought it was worth getting an update for you from them. There's still some minor works to be done. Yeah,
they're still reviewing the road markings, but it's a lot better than what it was.
Yeah, so sorry for the lateness of it, but it's there for your perusal.
Thank you.
That's it. That's me done.
All right, thank you. Councillor Petty, you got your camera on. Did you have a question? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Chair. You asked about agenda items.
Yes.
I've been looking at the primary objectives of the forum, and I know obviously some people are unhappy that we continue to have it online. But item 6 is quite interesting. It says that the forum will be wound down once governance arrangements are established.
That's great.
They have been established. I just wondered if you know, we maybe like to know what the Winchester's intention is. It intention to carry on, or is it the intention to, as it says, wind down once the governance arrangements are established? Perhaps you could ascertain whether that's possible in due course.
My understanding is that it will be wound down and handed over to the parish council, town council.
Okay.
Obviously, those arrangements need to be discussed about.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I appreciate that.
Whether it happens before the next meeting, this could be the last one. I'm not sure at the moment.
Okay.
But you're correct.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, maybe we'll leave that on the agenda for now then. The governance of the meeting. Who's in charge? Okay. Okay, as there's no other agenda items this evening, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.